I grow food, I build houses that grow food, I create sculptures, I create art, I make design and art based on making people aware of how much waste we generate. I don't think many people actually can contemplate or understand everything. That's one of the reasons why I started the zero waste business, the cafe, to try and make people aware, not only the people on the outside, but also the people that worked for me. And they've now gone on and opened places like Douglas who's opened Silo in Brighton in the UK, the UK's first zero waste restaurant. That him working here made him aware of, oh my God, there's all this other stuff. And it's getting rid of a rubbish bin is about the only way you can do it, and that's what we did. So all of a sudden, when you don't have a bin, what do you do? And then that's when you become aware. So a lot of people, I think, aren't aware until they actually decide to do that. Okay, well, what happens if you don't have a bin? And then you need to question almost everything that you do. It's quite demoralizing seeing, especially in Melbourne, we are the capital of the takeaway coffee cup. You go to Paris or you go to Rome, you don't see anyone drinking a coffee out of a takeaway coffee cup. It's like, why would you? But we've got this created in almost less than 5 years a culture where everyone needs to hold a takeaway cup with the illusion that it's recyclable, yet none of them get recycled, So I find that really took off in 2008, 2009, 2010 when I was opening restaurants that were all around waste. So for me, it was quite demoralizing to see that happening at the same time. And to me, there's always solutions. But like last week, Rockpool, which is owned by a good friend of mine, Neil Perry, stopped using bottled water and went to filtered tap sparkling water. And to me, that's 1,000 bottles a night for one restaurant. He's got 4 restaurants, so he's talking 4,000 bottles a night. So that's like a shipping container every month of water that is not only not being imported, but like that sort of stuff just doesn't make sense to me. So in 2008, when I started playing around with wine on tap and getting bulk gin and bulk whiskey, and what that actually ended up doing was forcing a connection between local producers as well. Because if you want to get that, like if you want to get olive oil in 20-litre stainless steel vats, or you want to get milk in 20-litre vats, you can't just, you need to connect with the people that are actually growing it or making it to try and make that happen. And there was a lot of resistance from winemakers, especially because they thought that once the wine bottle's gone, the brand recognition is gone. But those winemakers back in 2008 that supported me and gave me bulk wine actually ended up doing really well, because they became known as the innovators and the ones that really pushed a new idea forward. But what the best consequence was, like if you look at wine, say in the Yarra Valley, the biggest bottling plants are in Adelaide. So wine's grown in the Yarra Valley, it gets shipped in bulk to Adelaide to get bottled, then gets shipped back to the vineyard, then gets transported to wherever it goes. By me buying wine direct from the vineyard in a 20-litre keg, it meant there's like a 25% saving for the winemaker. But it also meant that he could do a batch just for us, or he could mix something up for us. So there's lots of good consequences, but then at the same time as this stuff is happening, I see this ridiculous culture of, eating everything out of takeaway. And there's, so much jargon out there about greenwash and about green brands and compostable and biodegradable. And what people don't understand is that plastic that comes from plants, mostly, everyone thinks it comes from corn. Well, that's ridiculous in its own right, I think, because we're using land that could be used for growing food to grow plastic. But it actually comes from palm oil. So corn will yield 2,000 to 3,000 litres a hectare. Palm oil will yield between 15 and 20,000 litres a hectare. So what are you going to use to make plastic? It's like, well, palm. And so the people choosing environmentally friendly plastics, what they think is the right environmental choice is actually causing deforestation in places like Borneo and parts of Africa. to try and get more land to grow more palm oil. Growing your own food is a brilliant start, and everyone says, well, I can't. Well, of course you can. I mean, I've seen people grow food on roundabouts, in China. Growing your own food is really is the greatest way to connect. And I know growing food is not for everyone, but I think that at least a third of the population, I've got this theory that when I've spoken to school kids over the years, there's a third of kids get it. You can see a sparkle in their eye when you're talking about growing food. And so I came up with this idea that 1 in 3 of us is really programmed to grow food, and that kind of makes sense. So I imagine that in 20 years' time, a third of Melburnians will be busy growing food for the other 2/3. And not only that, you'll massively reduce heat island effect, you'll reduce water runoff, you'll create biodiversity. Imagine people see rubbish everywhere. They see the shit that they generate. It's like, we've got to do something about this. At the moment, this keeps getting taken away, but we're burying it in a hole. What's the difference? If Collins Street was filled with rubbish, people would stop generating it.